In times like these, when the streets of our great cities echo with voices raised in protest, and uncertainty seems to hang in the air like a thick fog, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. We see the news, hear the arguments, watch the marches unfold, and wonder, what can I do? How do I move forward when the world feels like it's spinning out of control? The truth is, no matter how loud the chaos becomes, there is always something you can do, and more importantly, there is always something you must do. Let's take a step back and look at where we are. Across America, especially in places like Los Angeles and other major urban centers, we're witnessing protests and unrest that stem from deep-rooted issues tied to immigration policy, economic disparity, and the ripple effects of decisions made at the highest levels of government. Some of these policies were enacted under former President Donald Trump, whose administration took a hardline stance on immigration and implemented sweeping tariff changes in an effort to reshape trade relationships with countries around the world. Under Trump's leadership, the U.S. introduced aggressive tariffs on imports from China and other nations, aiming to bring manufacturing jobs back to American soil and reduce reliance on foreign goods. At the same time, his administration implemented strict immigration controls, including the controversial zero-tolerance policy that led to family separations at the southern border. These actions were part of a broader vision to secure the nation's borders, protect American workers, and renegotiate international trade deals to benefit domestic industries. Now, whether or not you agree with those policies, their impact has been far-reaching. Tariffs initially disrupted supply chains and increased costs for businesses and consumers alike. Many small companies found themselves squeezed by higher material prices, while families saw the cost of everyday goods rise. In some cases, jobs were brought back to the U.S., but in others, the burden fell heavily on working-class Americans who were already struggling to make ends meet. On the issue of immigration, the policies created fear and instability within communities. Families were torn apart, legal processes became more complex, and the very idea of the American dream seemed more distant for many. While the intention may have been to enforce order and security, the human cost was undeniable. And now, as new administrations try to undo or modify those policies, confusion remains, and the emotional scars linger. So here we are today living in a country where people are angry, afraid, and tired. Tired of waiting for change, tired of promises unfulfilled, tired of seeing loved ones struggle while leaders debate behind closed doors. But I want to remind you of something important. You are not powerless. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the architect of your life, and even in the midst of national turmoil, you can still build something better starting with yourself and your own household. You cannot control the headlines. You cannot dictate the next election. You cannot force Congress to compromise or judges to rule in your favor, but you can control your finances. You can choose to be responsible with your money. You can prepare for the future, no matter how uncertain it appears, because when everything else is shaking, your financial foundation is one thing you can strengthen, and doing so gives you power, dignity, and peace of mind. Think about this. When the economy stumbles, when inflation rises, when job markets fluctuate, the first thing that protects you is not your political opinion or your social media post. It's your emergency fund. It's your debt-free status. It's your ability to sleep at night because you know where your next paycheck is going and how much of it will actually stay in your pocket. That kind of freedom doesn't come from a rally or a protest. It comes from discipline, planning, and personal responsibility. We live in a culture that tells us to blame everyone else for our problems. Blame the government, blame corporations, blame the rich, blame the poor, blame the other side, but blaming won't pay your rent. Blaming won't keep the lights on. Blaming won't put food on the table or send your kids to college. What will? Action, responsibility, control over what you can control. This is not to say that systemic change isn't necessary, because it absolutely is. There are real injustices, real inequalities, and real pain in this country that must be addressed. But while you work toward those larger goals, whether through voting, volunteering, or advocating, don't neglect the things right in front of you. Don't let the noise distract you from building a life of stability, purpose, and peace. If you carry credit card debt, get rid of it. If you don't have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved up, start saving. If you're not investing for retirement, begin now. If you're renting and dream of owning a home, create a plan to make it happen. If you're stuck in a dead-end job, invest in your education or skills so you can move forward. These aren't glamorous tasks, but they are powerful. They are the tools that give you leverage in a world that often tries to take it away. And here's the beautiful part. When you start taking control of your own life, you become a source of strength for others. You become someone who can help a neighbor in need, support a friend who's down on their luck, or mentor a young person trying to find their way. Your stability ripples outward. Your example inspires. Your voice carries more weight because it's backed by action. That's how real change happens, not just through marches and slogans, but through millions of individual decisions to rise above hardship, to reject dependency, and to embrace self-reliance. That's how we rebuild trust in our institutions, by showing that we are capable of managing our own lives before demanding that others manage them for us. Let me be clear, none of this means turning a blind eye to injustice. Far from it. It means approaching the fight for justice with clarity, maturity, and a sense of proportion. You can care deeply about immigration reform and still be smart with your budget. You can advocate for fair trade practices and still avoid overspending on unnecessary luxuries. You can demand accountability from leaders while holding yourself accountable for your own choices. What we're talking about is balance, emotional resilience, financial independence, a mindset that says, no matter what happens outside my door, I will not be broken by it. I will prepare. I will adapt. I will grow. When tariffs go up and prices rise, the financially strong person doesn't panic, they adjust their spending. Find alternatives, and maybe even discover opportunities in the chaos. When immigration laws shift and uncertainty reigns, the wise person builds community, supports those in need, and ensures their own life is built on solid ground so they can weather any storm. It's easy to get swept up in outrage. It's harder and more rewarding to get grounded in reality, to understand that life is full of challenges, yes, but also full of choices, and every single day you get to decide what kind of life you want to lead. So ask yourself, do you want to be someone who complains about the system or someone who masters their own? Do you want to spend your energy pointing fingers or building something lasting? Do you want to wait for someone else to fix things or start fixing your own corner of the world? The answer lies not in the headlines, but in your daily habits, in your checkbook, in your calendar, in the way you talk to your kids, your spouse, your coworkers, in the way you handle stress, setbacks, and disappointments. Because here's the truth, no matter how bad things seem, there is always hope, always opportunity, always a path forward, but it doesn't come wrapped in a political slogan or handed down from Washington. It comes through sweat equity, delayed gratification, and the quiet courage to do the right thing even when nobody's watching. You might not be able to stop the protests tomorrow. You might not be able to change the laws overnight. But you can change your own life, one decision at a time, $1 at a time, one day at a time. And if enough people start making those changes, if enough families become financially free, emotionally stable, and personally empowered, then the whole country begins to shift. Not because politicians passed another law, but because citizens started acting like adults again, taking care of themselves, their neighbors, and their futures. So let's stop waiting for permission to live well. Let's stop looking for someone else to rescue us. Let's stop being spectators in our own lives and start becoming the authors of our own stories. Your life matters. Your choices matter. Your future is worth fighting for, not with anger, but with action. Not with despair, but with determination. Not with debt, but with discipline. America has always been a land of reinvention, resilience, and redemption, and no matter what's happening in the streets or in the halls of power, that spirit still lives not just in the country, but in you. So stand tall, take charge, build wisely, and remember, you don't need a perfect system to live a powerful life. You just need the will to start today. Every journey begins with a single step. Yours starts now.